2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Inside Movies Galore. I am your host, actually, for tonight. We're continuing the Halloween month, so to speak. I believe we did a fabulous job last week with an old Halloween special, this time I bring to you a 1996 film that was directed by Walz and picked up by Troma years ago, called Killer Condom, or Killer des Grauens, so to speak. And I know I picked it up on DVD years back, and then Vinegar Syndrome put out a nice little set for it, with having 4K and Blu-ray involved with it, and definitely some extras and whatnot. Let me bring up IMDb real quick with Killer Condoms just to see. That way we can know what IMDb says about the film, and also I can tell a little bit about who were the writers. Now, this was based on a comic series of comic books. Not necessarily a long series, but it definitely had a couple in its wake. And these are the writers: Ralph Koenig, Martin Waltz, Mario Camp. Some of the stars in here were Udo Samel, Peter Lorme, Iris Berben, Leonard Lansing, Mark Richter, and so on and so forth. And IMDb, this is what IMDb says about the film. New York. A professor's affair with a student takes a bizarre turn when a possessed condom bites off his penis. A detective and gigolo join the investigation, only to face the killer condom's rampage. So, going around, seeing what people's first impressions are. Well, let's start with you, Jake. Was this a first-time watch for you?
Well, Dave, as you know, I watch this kind of movie all the time.
Well, I know you always have safety first. So.
I have to say that this was definitely a first-time watch. I'm not sure that I'd ever heard of this movie before. You guys may have mentioned it in passing. I probably heard it and went, "The hell are you talking about?" But this was definitely a first-time watch. And I almost wasn't even sure I would get to see it but it turns out it's on YouTube. So that was, I guess, fortuitous. But on the other hand, now I've seen Killer Condom. So and I have mixed feelings. I kind of feel like in some ways this is sort of in the same vein as Reefer Madness, but a more modern schlock horror sort of way. I was deeply amused by the fact that I was watching a German film set in New York where everyone is speaking German with not even a pretense of trying to explain that. So that was kind of interesting. And the main cop, his I don't give a fuck attitude actually kind of amused me to a degree. Like, there are multiple scenes in the movie where he is sitting or standing in front of a no smoking sign with his ever-present cigarette. And he pretty much is smoking the whole movie long. And there were a couple of pretty good one-liners scattered about throughout the movie. There were a couple of bits of dialogue that were almost kind of golden. What was the one that I put up earlier? I was trying to remember what it was. It was the where they're talking about the girl. The girl mentioned in the IMDb thing, the one that was accused of biting her professor's dick off, basically. And the cop was talking about, one, the negative influence of New York, but he's also talking to her parents and going, you know what kids are like, they have to try everything. And I'm like, So there were elements of the movie that I enjoyed. There were elements that amused me, and it was genuinely a fairly unique film, and more in the good way than, say, Dave, I believe you said your fiance likened it to Bunny the Killer thing. Yeah. I liked this a lot more than Bunny the Killer thing. I didn't like it as much as Killer Rack, but I thought this was a much better movie and much more entertaining than Bunny the Killer thing. That said, as we described in that discussion, I freaking hated Bunny the Killer thing, and I thought it was not good. This one is not good either by most stretches of the imagination. It's cheesy, it's schlocky, it gets very weirdly preachy toward the end, which is part of, I guess, why I said it had sort of that reefer madness bit to it. Although the preachiness really came, you got both sides of it. You got the anti and the pro side where it got kind of preachy. So at least it gave both sides a voice, I guess you could say. But it got really problematic in many areas. Many areas. There are many aspects of this film that could turn people off, and I would not be surprised if people came away from it going, the hell did I just watch? It wasn't as blatantly offensive to my every sensibility as Bunny the Killer thing was. But there were still things that made me cringe. So overall, it was better than I expected. It was less offensive than I expected. It's still not a movie I'm likely to watch again and again and again. This may be a one-time watch.
Unless we cover it again.
This is at least my fifth time watch, but we'll get into that. This is at least my fifth time watching it.
I'm not
so surprised. You can tell that I am amused by this film.
And I'm sure
it helps that some years back, a friend of mine actually hunted down the soundtrack to it on CD for me.
Now, I will say the theme song, the German theme song that plays over the end credits, I don't know all the lyrics. I know some German, but not enough to translate as I listen. But it sounded really cool, and I imagine it was probably offensive and hilarious at the same time. But not knowing German very well, it was fun to listen to.
All right.
All right, heading over to you, Brandon. Was this a first time watch for you?
Yes.
I know you picked up the Vinegar Syndrome shortly after I did.
I get very impulsive about things sometimes. And I'm not going to lie. Weird stuff like this does draw my eye, and any who know me and know what I have in my collection knows that I have a number of weird things in my collection. Sometimes just because of the title. I mean, why else do you think I have what was it?
Killer Rack?
Well, I have that. I have Rug Suckers from Mars in there.
Oversexed drug suckers.
Yeah, Oversexed Drug Suckers from Mars.
Actually, talking about your weird ass titles, I just had a thought of a crossover film of Dick Shark versus Killer Condom.
That would be an interesting title. I do have Dick Shark, which one day we'll cover, but I don't know if I want to sit through 3 hours of Dick Shark.
Well, I could hunt down the picture that
That
I have.
3 hours?
Yes.
Jesus.
So, this one kind of reminded me of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes in that series. It had a lot of the wacky humor of that, but at the same time,
need to cover.
it had we do have a franchise month, so a 4-week month would be perfect for that series because there's 4 movies. But this one, I agree with Jake when I say that it does get a bit preachy in places. So the tone kind of is iffy, and I felt like it dragged a bit. Oddly enough, the tone, the movie itself did not bother me all that much. I admit, as a younger man, my sensibilities might have felt more threatened by it. But I've been desensitized to all sorts of content since then. And I find this less repulsive than Street Trash, where they have the scene where they play football basically with the dick as the ball. So, and I still hate that movie. So I will, matter of fact, that's one of the movies that's going into my I don't plan to watch it again vault. This one will actually stay up because there is a shot I might watch it again. I do think that the 2-hour runtime makes it feel long for me, but
I was surprised at that.
But at the same time, I don't hate it. Matter of fact, it fulfills pretty much most of my expectations of what a movie called Killer Condom would fulfill. So I think I got what I paid for with Vinegar Syndrome, and it was a very nice release. I've got it on 4K if I really want to watch it.
Believe it or not, there are some nice interviews in the bonus features, especially with. I particularly liked seeing the interview with Jorg Buttgereit, which he's known for some more cult classic gore films, and he was the one who did the special effects for this movie.
Well,
so
yeah.
I don't know if you know Necromantic 1 or 2.
We covered Necromantic, I believe.
We might have, I think. We covered it because of Mo.
That might have been a week I was on.
So I know I've watched it for some discussion. Okay, not this group's discussion, So maybe on
Schlockaholics.
Delusions or something, but we have covered that one at least once before in some manner. Never again, but I will say I have.
Well, yeah, he dealt with more like necrophiliac type stuff. But let's leave that there, and then we'll move forward. Are you done with your first impressions then?
Yes.
Brandon? Okay. I'm not sure. I think, okay. I have this friend that's older than me, and he worked with me at my mom's resale shop, and we would discuss weird movies from time to time, and he was strictly only VHS and tapes and vinyl records and stuff like that. He was bound and determined he was never going to become a DVD collector at any given point in time. Well, he told me about this one. So I went and hunted it down, and I found a copy at Half Price Books of the DVD, and I liked it, even though I had to read it. It was weird. And then a couple years later, he gave me the soundtrack for my birthday. So it was kind of neat to have that with this at that time. And when I heard about the Blu-ray release, I was like, "Yep, I'm getting it." That was an impulse buy. That was specifically an impulse buy. So I got it, and it looked cleaned up as all hell. And the main detective that's going around and doing the detective work, he reminds me of like a German version of Bob Haskins.
I think I thought of that right before you said it. Like, he reminded me of someone the whole time, and I couldn't put a finger on it. And then, like a minute ago, I was like, "Yeah, he had a Bob Hoskins vibe."
I don't know why, but Dave, I could see you cosplaying as this guy perfectly and going around. You already got.
I could.
Yeah, he's got the same kind of beard. You could do it if you wanted to.
If I wanted to, but then I'd have to probably try to hunt down the comic people to get the okay, and maybe do a sequel or something like that if I decided I wanted to. But
if nothing else, you got to have a costume.
But I do get that Attack of the Killer Tomatoes vibe too from you as well. But there are some political stuff that happens in here that kind of almost like prophesize stuff that is happening today, because there is a president or a guy running for president, and he wants to make the country great again. And he's Republican.
I could make any number of jokes here. I shall refrain.
Yep, I'll hold my tongue.
I'll hold my tongue any further than this too, because I don't really want to make this political, but it does have that aspect of it in it, and it does need to be mentioned. So, that being said, I also think that this came out at a time when being a person of the alphabetical number, the alphabet super. How do I say that without like being
alphabet rude? Community? I don't know.
Alphabet community. There we go. That this was almost a play against that whole community, and showing a little bit of some of the underground belly of that culture in this. Of course, who wants to go to the hotel?
There's a very real sense that they may have been, and that's why I said there was sort of a weird imbalance between cheeky, exploitive, let's just offend people kind of humor and actually feeling like they were trying to make a point. And there definitely is a feel here of there's that maybe they were trying to echo the whole AIDS pandemic, because the way this thing played out, there's a lot of similarity.
Yeah, there's I mean, a lot of the people in there, the Walz and so on of that time, which is always funny because he was very anti porn and stuff, but it was discovered he had a very large porn collection himself. So, you know, I guess he had to review them.
Quality control. There you go.
Exactly. But that's something that is I think that there is a political bent that is very pro leaving people be to do their thing. I mean, I had nothing against the detective sexuality. Matter of fact, it was kind of interesting how they did that.
Yeah, it definitely was. It seemed like the world was a little bit open as far as although the police around him were a little less open towards that type of sexuality, but I'm sure we'll skate over that or get to that when we get there. So the film begins with what looks like a high school or a professor or a college professor, so to speak.
No, they did
brings one of his.
They did specifically say she was underage, so I think he was. And at one point, she called him vice principal, so I'm guessing he was just a administrator at her high school. That was the impression I got.
Okay, but he brings this young lady into the Hotel Quickie, which, if you can tell exactly what he's doing, is that her grades are not exactly up to par.
Oh, I love the innkeeper.
He's hoping that he's that's huge. That dude, he's hilarious.
Yes.
But he brings her into this hotel room, tells her her grades are definitely not up to par, and he starts taking his clothes off, and at first she I think she shudders with revulsion and tells him no,
Yeah.
But then he goes into a speech about you really don't want me to tell your parents about your grades, right, do you? And then you'll probably get kicked out, and yada yada yada. And then she slowly starts to take her clothes off, and of course he starts to unzip, and all of a sudden she screams, and you hear noises like a sucking sound, like and you see him somewhat like the blood rushes to his face or something like that, and that's when it goes into the title credits. So what do y'all think about that very beginning scene?
Well, for one, they make a point. We find out pretty soon that she's from, was it Farmville, Oklahoma? I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of the most generic country-sounding name they could probably think of. And of course, I guess Oklahoma, you're trying to make the point that she's about as naive, country bumpkin as you can get. But I got to say, it's no wonder she's failing if she can be led into a place called the Hotel Quickie without any red flags really going off by this point. She definitely he knows something's up because he promised to take her home, and he's not doing that. But she seemed really slow to really make her concerns known.
It doesn't surprise me that she was failing her classes.
Yes. But and of course, like, you know, the way that whole scene's presented definitely is a little icky, but the fact that he gets comeuppance definitely makes it a little more entertaining. But I was going to say, as far as I guess you could call him the concierge or the doorman, or well, the guy, the guy in charge of the place. I think concierge might be appropriate there. But
yeah, he's a little bit stingy.
He was amusing, I will agree. And a phrase that comes to mind with him is, and you got to say it just like they do in The Simpsons with the air quotes. He is a legitimate businessman.
Yes, he is. I don't see why anybody would think anything else.
Right.
But anyway, I guess the young lady, nobody believes her story.
All these women biting dicks off.
Trying to, was it Phyllis? Her name, Phyllis Higgins. I think
I don't remember because she wasn't really in the movie very long. But I do remember that it goes into this, and there's this rash of crimes where these women are like cutting dicks off of people.
Yeah.
And all the women seem to not agree that they're the ones who cut it off.
No, of course.
Correct.
Yeah.
She gets taken to the police station, and her parents are already there, and they want her to be released right away. And ultimately, it's Luigi and his partner Sam who come in, and I guess it's Luigi's day off, and yet he's told that he's told he's got to take on this case where multiple women have been accused of cutting penises off from their johns.
Cutting nothing. They're accused of biting them off.
Yeah, biting. And all are similar cases.
Yeah.
And it just so happens to have happened at the Hotel Quickie, at least the first string of them.
Right.
So he and his part. I think no, he does. His partner wants nothing to do with this thing. At first, because even he, while they're in their office, are like, I just want to continue doing nothing. But he takes it upon himself, and I like the fact that the way he speaks is almost like kind of Dragnet like a little bit. Where he's talking about this is New York, and I've seen all kinds of things, and of course then he shows up at the Hotel Quickie, and he's eyeing up a young chap who seems to be eyeing him up too, and he asks for the key from the proprietor of the establishment, since he is a legit businessman.
Proprietor is also a good word.
Yes. But he signals for the young kid to come over, and he calls him cop, and I guess he is eventually able to get the key by threat, to the proprietor because he's specifically told him, I'm pretty sure that she was a minor and I could get you in trouble for that. So he gives him the key and goes up to starts to go up to a room, and that's when he runs into his ex-partner, whose name used to be Bob, and who insists that his name is now a she, Babette. And the conversation between Babette and him is hilarious as he's trying to get onto the elevator, go up to the room and have a quickie with that young man, but Babette is evidently they had a one night stand, and she remembers it to be nice, and it's kind of a one-sided thing. And the fact that he goes into this whole well, my therapist told me that you just think of that I look like your mother and all that jazz,
Reminds me of him.
and you're just afraid to tell me your feelings, type of thing. And it's just kind of hilarious a bit because he's just brushing her off all the way along and trying to be nice about it too.
I guess honestly, the whole Bob Babette thing is one of the most problematic parts of the whole movie, and I got very little enjoyment out of almost any of those scenes. It just did not work for me. I felt like it was a extraordinarily clunky.
It didn't age well.
Didn't age well, but also I really don't know that it added much to the plot.
I think they were using it more as a laugh section here.
Yeah, they probably were, and it did not play that way for me.
It played that way for me. It played a comedy type thing because she just wouldn't leave him alone, and that was the point. that okay, this is the and Babette wanted it to be more than a one night stand. In fact, she went as far as to call her the girlfriend. When they got up to the upper level. For me, I was somewhat giggly, but that's me. And that's coming from a standpoint where I grew up, Christian, and thinking that type of relationship was wrong. But as I grew older and was around many people who had that type of sexuality and stuff, I got used to it, and as time goes on, it almost becomes a normal thing.
Yeah, and I want to clarify that's not what bothered me. The portrayal and the fact that it was played in laugh is the part I think that bothered me.
I found the character to be more annoying than funny, but that
unbelievably annoying, yes. But
the character got annoying.
I felt like they were trying to turn the trans people into a punchline in the movie, basically, and it did not age well.
Which that's a typical trope from back in any time.
But it's been handled much better in other films.
Shoot, back in the 90s, man.
Yeah.
Make me feel old back in the 90s.
I feel like this film was definitely trying to be offensive at the time, too. This was a very raunchy period for
I don't
Trauma.
know. It felt very pro-gay at the time, other than that. And even that character, I don't feel like the character was meant to be portrayed as, look, they're trans, so therefore it's funny. I really do think that it was more of them trying to just normalize the whole thing by having most of the main characters and cast be gay. I feel like it was kind of putting us into that world, and nothing wrong with that entirely overall. It just doesn't age well with the time.
They could have done it with more finesse, definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the thing. Is it's but then again, I mean, you got a fairly cool cop gay main character.
Yeah. And as we find out, he's got a 32 centimeter around phallus going on there.
I don't think they said around. I kind of hope that's not what they meant.
It was, it's a foot long. It's a foot long.
When they get into when the young chap and the boy and him get into the room, he has a moment where he stares at his, whatever it was, and he said, and he told him point blank, 32 centimeters.
Yes, he did not say around. That's a bit different.
Yeah, a foot in diameter. You wouldn't be able to walk.
32 centimeters.
Oh, it's like the redneck song.
Maybe a little under a foot. Maybe a little under a foot or something like that. I don't know.
32 centimeters is 11 inches, basically. I mean, 13 inches. It's about 13 inches.
Yeah,
it's big.
Yeah. But that's what kind of
and he's a short dude too, which is funny.
Yeah, it is.
He's a short dude.
But as things progress, they undress, and it seems like they begin a sexual act of some sort. And but young kid, he notices the movement of the condom on the dressing table, and he swears he's seen it, and Luigi just kind of goes like, yeah, whatever. It didn't move, and they begin again, and then of course the thing made some noise and leaped from the dresser, and that's when they were like, well, what the hell was that? So Luigi, he gets up, and I guess he asks for his lighter that's in his pants pocket, and he gives him it, and he lights the lighter up, and you see the teeth of this thing, and it looks like a small rubber nipple, and it's making all these sounds, and it literally lunged at him, and then you see Luigi wake up in the hospital, and I guess he's lost his left nut or his right? I'm trying to remember. One of them. So he's got one ball left. So
because he keeps talking about, well, I'm only at half power. But I will say that the creatures themselves, I do love the little sounds they have them make. It's funny.
I do too. Yeah. And you know what? They kind of remind me of the sounds that the donuts made in Killer Donuts.
Right. Well, actually, I was going to say, I feel like, didn't the Killer Tomatoes make a similar noise?
Yeah, they were something like that too. Yeah. They sounded more disgruntled, but yeah.
And you can almost go as far as gremlin sounds, almost from the Gremlin movies a little bit. Not
so. We had an entire cartoon series out of Killer Tomatoes. Where's the cartoon series for Killer Condoms, other than the comic book, of course?
Yeah, I wish. That would be awesome.
Y'all better get on that.
But I guess this is the first time he ends up in the hospital, and that's the first time you see the head nurse in charge and whatnot. And then I guess after leaving the hospital, his partner Sam apparently has placed a bolo out for the young kid because he doesn't believe the whole condom.
Wanted poster.
The wanted poster.
Okay.
It's wanted posters have been called bolos before.
Okay. Oh, like a bulletin, I guess. I don't know. I've heard them called that. Whatever.
Well, to clear it up for those of us in the audience that don't know that slang term, like myself and obviously Jake.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he is not believed by anyone in the police precinct that killer condoms are in fact the reason why
Really?
these penises have been bitten off, and so has his ball.
I can't imagine why.
Huh?
I can't
Very
imagine why.
plausible.
Actually, one of the reasons why I chose this picture for my screen cap is that I feel like that expression perfectly captures what most people think when they hear that there's a killer condom on the loose.
But I guess that's when I believe he goes and tries to search out, or is that after he goes home and takes a shower and Babette shows up, or is that later? Trying to think, because I know he goes out in search of the boy and where he lives, and he finds a pair of cops there, and he basically tells them to scram, and he'll take over. And while he's there, he's talking to himself about because the last time he doesn't want to have any kind of relationship because he thinks he's too old, and he.
Indeed.
There's one not where, and he listens to all the different sexy things that apparently his clients have left messages for, which kind of comes up later when he has a conversation with the kid while standing outside the hotel quickie, and he's like, "You've been with all these dudes, and whatnot," and it's like, "Okay, I've been with all these dudes, so what?" But going backwards, okay.
Well,
also there are a couple of montages of dicks getting bitten off by various women, and the increase of victims has been increased. There's even a woman who, I think she was homeless in the park, and her nose was bitten off because the darn thing thought it was a penis.
So yeah, the whole of it, there's a couple of scenes that go on around. To me, because the movie kind of moves very slowly, I'm not gonna lie, I lost my place a couple of times as to what happened. The things I know that happened during that middle period before Babette confronts him and they actually get one of them for the first time. we have him trying to convince everybody that these condoms are real. We got other people getting them bit off, and then we also have a sex scene where they're in an elevator with him and the one character, the pretty boy character, and they're going at it in the elevator, and they wreck the elevator.
That part is funny.
But it leads up to the scene where they go back. He goes back to his apartment, and Babette has come there with a knife, basically PO'd and ready to get her little revenge.
Which they do a little bit of a psycho music to it too, like
Fatal Attraction.
That was a full on. I feel like they tried to do a full on recreation of the scene from Psycho. Like it wasn't just the music; it was they went all in.
Because he was in the shower at the time that they did.
Yeah.
But she had brought one of the condoms with her, and that ended up moving things into okay, well, you know what? We need to put this aside for a moment. But they do manage to kill the condom with a long fight and a lot of gunshots going off in that apartment.
Right.
He ended up blowing it up by sticking it onto a gas hose.
And she forgot to turn. She got the handle off, so couldn't stop the gas. So
Right.
There's also a moment where Sam is told by their police sergeant to dress up like a basically alphabet soup community dude.
Doesn't that happen afterwards? Like after they discover the killer condom?
Yeah.
It was told to basically go in and undercover into the community in order to see if they can find out where these are coming from, because they discovered.
And that was after the presidential moment too, because we have the dude who's running for president, and you see him talking about let's make our country great again, and then you see him in a tub, and then they somewhat imitate Jaws with a ducky. Which on that ducky is
right,
one of them condoms, and the chick that has basically almost undressed for him was like, what is that? She's like, that thing is cute.
Yeah.
What's it doing? And then it basically jumps into the tub and bites the dude's dick off. And
we should note that this guy, not only was he talking about making the country great again, but he was also essentially running on a Christian conservative platform.
Yeah.
Like he was basically running on a platform of, we need to clean up this filth in this country and all that stuff. And then, of course, when we see him behind the scenes, well, yeah, he's obviously not practicing what he preaches.
Well, no, and one of the things that that thicker chick that is a police person that he knows, that when she came in and made that one perp have static in his hair, that was funny.
That was kind of a funny scene, but that was one of the more tonally discordant scenes, because it was almost out of nowhere, but it was fun.
Yeah. But
he asks her to look into the property that the Hotel Quickie used to be, which was apparently a church.
Yeah.
And when she dug up the information, it turns out that dude who was running for president actually demolished that church that was nearby or whatnot. And of course, there's also a professor that evidently made latex condoms that was kidnapped as well.
Yeah, because they noted that guy who was always following him in the pictures in the background.
Yeah.
Random Asian guy.
But they find in the But of course, they find doing the autopsy that these things, the only thing that they do, they don't eat, they don't do it. It's their purpose is just to bite off dicks. That's it. That's all they do.
Right. Everyone needs a hobby. Yeah.
And I love the newspaper headlines after the president, the dude that's running for president.
Yeah.
I think his name was McGovern.
I believe you're correct.
Dickless Dick. Something or other. I thought that was amusing. That they would print that in a newspaper. But I wonder if his name was Dick McGovern.
Well,
anyways,
I mean, I know that it leads back to they find this place where a lot of people are recovering that has a chapel hospital.
It ends up in St. Patrick's Hospital or whatever.
And the woman who gets her nose bitten off ends up discovering the somebody coming up from the altar of the chapel. And the police actually recognize this and go down. But then it leads to a very frustrating thing with them trying to figure out what she's trying to tell them. And me just being like, come on, get to it already. I admit, I think I was looking at the runtime of the movie, like, come on, I can't believe there's this much left. Come on.
Yeah,
it ended up being the young dude could actually understand everything that the chick was saying. So I wish that that they would have just brought him along inside too, so that they could translate what she was saying in there too. But of course, we were going along for the ride with Sam on this, and of course they go down in there, and then of course the Asian guy comes up and grabs noseless girl, and because of all the noises that this all has been, because first gunshots are heard and then screams. That's when Luigi, who was speaking to the head nurse lady, which her name I think was
Dr. Riffelson.
Yeah, Dr. Riffelson. And literally, he goes and shoots the altar up, because that's where the secret door is, or whatnot. And he goes around the back. I don't know why he did that, but he basically tumbles down the stairs, and he meets up with he finds the professor, who is running on this machine that he's putting the condoms through this tube, and then the tube just kind of they kind of crawl inside the tube, and eventually they're shot out at the end and killed, evidently. On this thing of spikes, which I don't know why he's doing that, since he's supposedly the one that created these things, unless he's trying to get rid of evidence.
Well, he's trying to train him to latch on to a dick, and those that do it correctly survive, but those who do not end up getting impaled.
Okay.
The process of like evolution, and you got to strong survive.
Right. One weird side note here. Our doctor is played by Iris Bourbon. She actually has some notable credits, including Triangle of Sadness and Eddie the Eagle. Interesting.
Just not at the same level as
no,
as this.
Not quite the same level. No. But yeah. And I will say with her, there is a schizophrenia to that character. It's like until the mask comes off, she's very cool and collected, and then when the mask comes off, she's just a psycho. I feel like maybe there could have been a little more nuance there, but
Well,
yeah, ultimately, at the end of the day, you have an overly imaginative and downright psycho woman who evidently believes inside the lines of the Bible and has taken it upon herself that she is the servant of the Lord, and basically she thinks that all of what she knows and believes gives her the right to serve as the hand of God, to smite the sinful purge, actually, of people who, and I would have to say it's kind of like towards most of the transvestite and alphabet soup category.
Well,
it's
if you don't mind me getting political briefly, and I'm not going to try and be pointing fingers at any individual peoples. In the 90s and 80s, a lot of which this probably pulled off of, my guess is the comic was done before 96 when this was done. That a lot of that feel was that AIDS, which is attached to there, was a disease that was sent from God to wipe out the homosexuals, and many people wanted to do everything they could to make sure that the disease thrived as much as possible to get rid of that community. Then you also have this community, and I'll admit this religious right community does exist very well and alive today. Matter of fact, may be stronger than ever.
Right.
But there is a very huge sentiment that condoms are evil, sex is for procreation, and if it's not for procreation, then it is evil. Matter of fact, we had one public figure who I shall not mention, who even mentioned that if it's not for procreation, then it's evil and you're useless. So this sort of thing is not new by any standpoint. But yeah, I think that this was a push at the AIDS pandemic at the time.
Yeah, I think very much so. And also, again, well, I was going to mention a name, but as far as the rise of the religious right and that sort of thing, I was going to say this doctor reminds me almost. I was trying to think of a third person to describe her peculiar sensibilities.
She reminds me of Dr. Strangelove.
Okay, well, Dr. Strangelove is similarly ridiculous, so we'll throw him in. But let's say a bargain basement trauma brand Dr. Strangelove sensibility, but the moral belief and fervor that's sort of a weird, unholy blend between Pat Robertson and Ra's al Ghul.
There's actually a parallel between this and last week's film, because the killers were also very much religious.
Right.
Well, yeah. Actually, they might have gotten along with the killers.
They might have gotten along very well. And also to the point,
they might have been behind the patenting of the condom itself once it actually became what they wanted it to be.
To the point of like the whole condoms are evil and whatever, to show that it definitely is not a new phenomenon.
Oh no!
One of the great moments of the Monty Python of course, is their little vignette every sperm is sacred. It's such a great moment in an otherwise mediocre film. But
we could do a Monty Python month.
yes.
We'd have to redo Holy Grail, probably. Actually, let's see. Yeah, we'd have to redo Holy Grail to do 4 films. Because there's only 4 films.
Yeah.
Because Holy Grail, Meaning of Life, Life of Brian, and something completely different.
Now for something.
Unless you call the Terry Gilliam films part of all that jazz.
Well, they're their own thing. Although
Except for Jabberwocky, which is kind of like a bridge between the Python and
exactly. Jabberwocky and to a lesser extent Time Bandits were kind of like a bridge into his later stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. But anyway.
But we do find out all of that. And the Asian guy and her royal Christian ship.
And that's a good example of the datedness of the film, is that the guy is basically the Asian guy.
Well, unfortunately, I don't know what else to call him by.
Well, again, I don't think the movie really gives you anything else to work with. Yeah.
Secret Serviceman Robinson. Just looking, seeing if I can. No, it doesn't. It's not really.
No.
But in any case, so we have the detective Luigi. He is held up by gunpoint, and she's basically telling him about the whole. Well, God has given me permission to kill the sinners and all that jazz. He realizes that his friends are hanging up above a pool of jumping, biting piranha-ish like condoms, and she basically brings him over by this big cage, and there's a huge big condom, and she's like, well, I've heard of your size, and because you're a sinner, you are going to unzip your pants and basically feed your penis to this giant condom thing, so but I believe at this point in time, the young kid, don't remember his name right offhand, he comes in, distracts them a little bit, and I do believe eventually one of his bullets ricochets and sets the professor free, which the professor then tries to attack Dr. Riffleson. And I do believe that he is successful, and she ultimately does get flipped over into the swamp, or whatever you want to call it. But there is a little bit of a gunfight that goes on between him and the Asian, and ultimately he unzips his pants, and you can see something sticking out from out underneath his underwear, and I guess he teases the monster because he knows it's gone beneath that into that pool, and so he's like, "Come on, get me, bite me," And I guess the thing flies out. The kid, I guess he punches the darn thing, and then I guess that thing then engulfs the Asian's head. And then he's got to go over to the controls and try to get his friends down. And I think that I don't think he found exactly how to get them down right at that moment, because I think Dr. Riffleson, comes out and spoofs some more of her crazy stuff, and that's when we get this preaching moment from Luigi. And I do like the fact that from time to time you'll hear Detective Luigi talk about his mother and his time in Sicily and stuff over time too, because you do get kind of a backstory from his own lips. But he basically stands up for the rights of alphabet soup community and transvestites and stuff like that. And ultimately comes around to a Christian moment, sort of, that he kind of believes in a God that is okay with okay with whoever loves whoever. It doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter what sexual preference you have. He loves all of us just the same, and it's almost like look at your own sins, type of speech.
I believe he does actually use the phrase "Let he without sin cast the first stone." I feel like that was part of it.
But that was said underneath his narrative too, so it was hard to somewhat gauge what he was saying after that.
It's like, I can't believe I actually sat there and said all that.
Right. And then of course, what happens after that? Trying to remember. Oh yeah, doesn't she ultimately go crazy and just jump into whatever swamp was there? Yeah, that's
she puts the gun to her head and pulls the trigger, and it comes out with that little flag that was it say
I
love
you, because it was the gun picked up from the young kids room.
Yeah. And then and I think she just kind of fell in at that. She just kind of gave up and fell in, I think, at that point.
Yeah. And you would like to think that all these condoms were just trying to bite at her. But in any case, we get the next. I think the next scene we get Babette saying something like, "I never thought you had that kind of speech in you. It kind of moved me." And I guess Babette was starting to move in on Sam. Put the moves on him and whatnot there. And then, of course, the chief basically tells him, you're going to have an extended leave. Because an extended leave. And the detective was like, I'm not returning.
I believe the chief said, I don't want to see you for the next 4 weeks. And he's like, you probably won't see me after that, Yeah.
And then, of course, the chief starts walking away, and he's like, wait, chief, look out. And he shoots a condom that evidently was near his feet. And the chief says something to the effect that, you know what? You can never take the cop out of you. You'll always be a cop. So, then of course, then you get the little romantic thing with the young kid and him, and he's like, you know what? I ought to take you to Sicily. I know this restaurant right around the corner.
After he tells him,
And the
I don't
kid-
want Italian food.
Yeah, but he's really trying to convince him that this one restaurant is like a piece of Sicily right there.
I don't think
You know.
he said a thing about a restaurant. He said, I know where you can get. I think he was talking about his mom's cooking. Pretty sure that's where he was going with that. But anyway.
Well, they still was going to be taking him to that Italian restaurant.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. He wasn't saying anything about a restaurant. He was saying, I want to take you home to mom, basically, is what he's saying.
Well,
and he's like,
after.
It's not really that far. Yeah. But anyway, well, that's why I mean, you've seen it 5 times, so you maybe, but that was how I understood the scene. But anyway, whatever.
Well, no, he said that they were going to go to the restaurant first, and then he started talking about you know what, I should also take you to my mom and have you meet my mom. And he was like, will she like that? And he said no, but the surprise will definitely be more than and at least she'll not know that you're no longer a virgin. And then I guess he likes being called cop, and I guess they turned it a little sexual towards the end. But anyways, that's pretty much the film. So, did anyone like anything about the production? Starting with you, Jake. What did you think about production?
I mean, I guess it was serviceable. Again, I was watching a rip on YouTube, which was probably shitty quality. So it's really hard to say for sure what the visual quality was. But in terms of costumes and effects and that kind of stuff, it seemed like they did a decent job with it, you know?
Okay. Anything else as far as production goes then? What about you, Brandon? What did you think about the production overall?
For what it was fine. I actually kind of liked the killer condom design with the teeth and stuff like that. So, you know, I mean, that was kind of interesting watching the condoms go around, flying around and doing that stuff. Otherwise, it was, you know, like I say, it felt like a little bit lower than the typical Troma standard of effects, but this wasn't Troma, it was just produced by Troma. So I would say that.
Well, it was distributed by
Yeah.
Troma. It wasn't produced by Troma.
So, you know, with their distribution, there's not really a Troma-esque budget going to the effects. So like I say, it was okay. Like I say, I like the condoms. I thought the work on that was pretty good.
Okay. I actually, because I've seen this more than a few times, I've gotten used to the atmosphere of the different areas, and I'm okay. I think the set designs and all that jazz is more than serviceable, and I really like the Hotel Quickie. I really wish something like that existed.
Oh, there's
for
plenty
some
of
reason
hotels
I like. For some reason I like the name of the Hotel Quickie. I even put it as a post one time, as a picture. So, I get a kick out of the condoms, and the special effects. I actually thought they were relatively decent. I mean, I didn't see any strings. You know, I didn't see any thing that could have pulled them along.
That's because they have real killer condoms.
And yes, the inside of the things look like petroleum jelly, but you know, I still think that they're unique, and there's nothing like this around anywhere. This was supposed to be cheesy, so I don't think cheesy should be used as something of a criticism per se, especially when it's meant to be and it is cheesy. And as long as you know that it is that going in and out, I wonder what they would have done on a bigger budget. I wonder what would have happened if they would have had a sequel, or at least as many sequels as Attack of the Killer Tomatoes did. You know, it's just I do think that there were some messages in the film that I don't think was quite receptive at the time, and it's even less receptive in this day and age. So I'm glad that it was made. I'm glad that it was creative enough to do something like this, to have it make it look well enough on screen. So yeah. Going into the music. The music is the soundtrack is amazing. Actually, I mean, it's got everything from Etta James to some other well-known films. Let me pull it up here.
Like I said, the music I did not have any real objections to. I thought it was interesting how they tried to give, I guess, because of Luigi's heritage that he keeps coming back to again and again. I feel like they were trying to give sort of a Godfather feel to the score, to varying degrees of success. But
yeah, just a little bit.
Emil Viklicki, I guess, is the name of the composer. But yeah, certainly whenever he talked about his home in Sicily, I heard something that sounded a bit like the Godfather score.
They definitely used a little bit of the music from Psycho. They definitely used a little bit of the music from Godfather. They definitely used a little bit of the Jaws. And they don't even have all the songs listed on the soundtrack. They just list "Killing Me Softly" on IMDb. But there were definitely more songs, and I know I have the soundtrack in my car.
Like I said, there's that end theme that I believe is just called Condom de Grande, which is the original title of the film. And I did enjoy that song. I thought it was fun.
I did. I like that particular song. That was funny.
Yeah. All right. And now that we have covered music.
And just a side note, I could be wrong about this. Again, my German is not perfect, but I believe the original title of this film, Condom de Grande, translates Condom of Horror, which is also a pretty good title. But, I guess Killer Condom's a little snappier. Yeah.
But in any case, let's do favorite characters and our favorite scenes. Let's start with you, Brandon, this time. What did you have a favorite character and their favorite scene?
Well, so as far as my favorite character, it would be the guy who runs the quickie, and he just cracks me up every time. And favorite.
Well, and what did you think of him actually be hung in the back there?
Well, I thought he was actually amused by it more than he was scared of it.
I don't know if anyone mentioned his name was Robinson, and he was played by Henning Schluter. It's a fun name.
My favorite scene. Well, my favorite scene, I guess, the one with the politician getting his stuff bitten off in the bathtub.
Okay, that one's pretty funny. What about you, Jake? Favorite character and/or favorite scene?
Well, favorite character, I have to agree, Robinson. I actually like Luigi for the most part, and he's a good protagonist, but when it comes down to it, Robinson definitely steals most of the scenes he's in. He's pretty hilarious. Favorite scene? I'm actually probably going to have to I don't know that I have anything that's like a clear favorite, but I do have to agree that the part where the politician gets attacked was great because he was such a slimy douchebag. And along the same lines, when we see his girlfriend in the police station and she just can't stop laughing about it, like she's not upset at all. She's just thinks it's hilarious. I found that amusing. But I'm tempted to say that the scenes with Robinson would probably also have to be on the list. But I can't single out a particular, like, this is my definite favorite. Nothing really comes to mind.
Okay. I guess my favorite character would definitely be the condoms themselves. They are hilarious, and I think that the special effects for them, okay, yeah, they're a little cheesy, but that's what condoms look like. So to have them outfitted with teeth, and then you got to see the insides of these things, you know, and I guess it's kind of an interesting character. I do like the proprietor. He's a little stingy, but I think I like Luigi as a character as well. For some reason, just his the fact that he's nonchalant about everything, and he's a small man, and yet he thinks he's got some big family jewels. It's kind of comical. Yeah, he's only half powered, but he's still going. But that being said, okay, favorite scenes. I would have to say where he was chasing the penis along the hallway. That was funny to me. When they wrecked the elevator with their love. And I guess, what else? I did enjoy the montage to make it seem like it's like an ongoing string of victims that have been bitten off. So And when they mentioned that after the first four, they're like, this is the first time we've had four penises laying in the morgue or something like that. I thought that was funny. But in any case, I guess that's it, ladies and gentlemen. So at the end of the day, hopefully you enjoyed our discussion on this film. Like and subscribe. And let us know down in the comments what you thought of our discussion and what you thought of the film. But I guess we'll have to go around and tell you guys a little bit about ourselves and what we do. So, Brandon. Oh, wait, no. I'll start with you, Jake. Why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm Kotobukijake. I am the sometime co-host of the YouTube channel SeptumSin versus the World. And also, generally just try very hard keeping up with all the stuff I want to do, because there's too much stuff I want to do. But I normally work full-time, and I've been taking it kind of easy the last couple days. I had a little medical procedure, and I'm recovering from that. But be getting back to the grind tomorrow, so it's good times. But in the meantime, I do try to, among other things, do some good reading, do some good viewing. Been working this week on getting caught up on some shows that I enjoy. Only Murders in the Building, Agent Carter, Agatha All Along. There's some good shows looking at. And I always try to make time to watch something every week to join these fine folks for our discussions. Even when it's something like this that's so far off the beaten path that I really thought about whether even to try. I'm kind of glad I did. It's, if nothing else, I can say I've seen this movie. And
I guarantee you that anyone who talks about movies with you and hasn't heard of a movie, describing it to anyone, they'll at least be amused.
Yeah, well, yes, it is a movie that has the potential to amuse. More likely to horrify, but maybe both if you're lucky, which is kind of what it did. I was horrified by parts of it. Mostly I was amused. And so at the end of the day, I guess it turned out better. It certainly was no Bunny the Killer thing, and I am grateful for that. And then so that's, I guess, all I got to say about that this time around.
Alrighty. Heading over to you, Brandon. Why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, just check out SeptumSin versus the World. We've got a live stream pickup on Wednesday, considering my voice holds up that long. But we're going to be live doing pickups, me and Jake. We got a whole bunch, so that's going to be fun, around 7:30 Eastern Standard. And then, of course, Friday, our next episode of Tabletop Horror is going to be a film called Heart of the Warrior, a Spanish film that wanted to be more, but never got the popularity to get past the first movie. But we
It's
won't
called
hold that.
Heart of the Warrior?
Yep, Heart of the Warrior. It's going to be a fun one that we talk about. I think y'all will enjoy it. And of course, next week, definitely join us for Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein as we dial back from the more modern and just go really back in time to some of the original monster mashing.
Okay. And my name is David Streggy. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us on this fantabulous journey we've been having. And I hope you have too. But I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where I also go on mostly every Sunday. But this Sunday I'm going to be going to DJing for my best friend from high school. She's getting married. I think for the second time, if I remember correctly. So it'll be some fun times. This will be my second wedding that I have DJ'd for. So we'll see how it goes. I know it's going to be a more laid-back wedding, and it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes out in Wisconsin country land, so good times. But we will be back, and I'm assuming that we're going to be following the trail of The Ring as we do more Ring with type film with our good friend Boris. So that'll be some good times. So but I do some pickups and video reviews from time to time. I did a couple weeks back throw out like 4 or 5 pickup videos. I'll probably have to do one on my masks that I've been collecting too eventually. But in any case, oh, and I guess I've got a collection of like older Walkmans that I wouldn't mind doing a small video eventually. So that might come out in the future. And we're still working on the Tales of the Forgotten Part 2, which we got a little bit further on earlier tonight. So we'll do as much as we can before some holiday vacation times come up, but hopefully have it done by hopefully January. Hopefully, I guess we'll see what happens. So good times. So like, share, and subscribe once again. We'll see you back next week, and good night, everyone. Say good night.
Good
Good
night.
night, all.
Don't let the condom